What's up? What's up? What's up? All right. So it's 3 a.m. in the morning and it's getting hot and heavy. And all you're hearing is wah, wah, wah. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? How come you don't do it like he do it? What about what she said? All of that all over again, 3 a.m. And you know you got to get up at 5. What do you do?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Heated topic. And it wasn't like put your arm over here.
No, see, yeah, it's heated, but not that kind of heat. All right. Okay, so today we're talking about heated conversations and how to have them without them being heated.
Yes. Welcome, everybody.
All right.
Welcome to Partners in Prosperity. My name is Onyx.
And I'm Kevin Jones, and we're ready to get going. We're going to dive right in. Hey, Bunny. Nice
Hey,
to see you.
Bunny.
Singing. Okay. Got that out the way.
Yeah, so it's 3 in the morning.
Yes.
And we're not making love. We fighting, arguing. Woo.
Arguing.
Wow, that's a lot.
So how do you control that? How do you minimize that? How do you curve that? And how do you take that to be a moment of growth?
Right. Yeah. How do you make it positive? Yeah. So a lot of it, right, is having dialogue versus argument.
Yes.
All right. So yeah, how do we have dialogue versus arguing? And when we say argue, we have to understand argument, defining that for different couples means different things.
It does.
Some people argument is you're just yelling.
Mm-hmm.
Some people it's passive aggressive, right?
Yes.
Like I'm not gonna fight with you, but you're being dismissive, you're not listening, you're not opening.
Yeah,
I mean,
all that.
Yeah. So arguing comes at a way different levels. But the point is you're butting heads, you're not getting along. And so how do you open up dialogue versus arguing?
Well, I think it's different for every person. It's different for every person, whomever that audience is. Whoever the other person is, has to do with how you bring a topic into a conversation.
Right.
And it depends on the topic too. And so I think being open and honest and being direct is beneficial in some ways. In other ways, you might have to bring some humor into the moment.
Yes. Make it light.
Make it light.
Yes. Make it fun.
So,
because some people, when they're direct, they can be hurtful.
Oh God.
And you know that.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. You know that.
Cut
you know that if you speak direct, even though you're saying I'm just being honest, but you know it's cut.
At the beginning when they say I'm just being honest, that's like I'm just pulling my knives out.
Yeah. And so if you're like that, I like that. Being humorous. Yeah. That kind of softens the mood. Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Knowing the other person and what makes them feel more comfortable is, for me, I know for me, what makes me feel comfortable in conversations, and I know having humor and making things lighter is a good thing as well.
Or using kind words.
Or I'm usually very careful with my words.
Or being very careful.
Very specific with my words, because it's really about what is the outcome that I desire. The end result of this conversation, what do I want in this conversation?
Right. So approaching it with the outcome in mind.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this, because sometimes some people, they avoid conflict completely and just don't bring it up. And I was sharing with my husband an example of where I thought in my mind, this was my story, that if I brought up the topic of me retiring with my husband, it would be a challenge. It wouldn't be well received. And that just wasn't a conflict I was willing to have. And so I instead put this full-blown action plan together. And it took me a long time.
She was prepared.
Oh, it took me like over a year to put all the marbles in play, right? And I
Mhm.
came with a spreadsheet, graphs, charts, colors, and everything when I was ready to tell him, okay, I'm ready to retire. This is why it's going to work. Here's the numbers. I mean, I did the whole spiel. And he was like finally so happy, like, you're making a decision that's for you. He bought me flowers.
Yeah.
And I thought, my God, I spent a whole year avoiding the conflict without just having the dialogue.
Yeah. The stress when you avoid a conversation, there is internal stress that goes with that.
Yes.
And that stress shows up in
Other
other areas.
ways,
In
yeah.
other areas. It can be, withdrawal. It could be it could be a lack of intimacy.
Because I'm not in the mood.
No,
because
stress, man.
Right.
Stress to the body does.
Mhm.
No, I'm trying to keep stress all the way down. Yeah. So harboring that,
Ooh,
and it
yeah.
affects your health. It
Yes.
just, yeah, it does.
It
Yeah, it
does.
does.
I'll testify to that. Holding that in. And it's so crazy because it was my own story, right? It was what I created in my mind of what your reaction was going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so avoidance is not good or healthy either.
No, you actually miss out. When you avoid things, you miss out on what could be if you just, go ahead and broach the topic.
Yeah. So meaningful dialogue, we definitely want to have meaningful dialogue, right? Not arguing. Once you've had that conversation, how did you feel? Oh, wow. Yes. Felt total relief. Yeah. Not sure how he was going to react, but just feeling relieved that I finally spoke it. I said it out loud.
Yeah.
And then once I told him and he empowered me, then I was able to go on my job and tell them, hey, at the end of the year, I'm retiring. I was able to tell my family and friends. It was this powerful surge that came. But holding that and not speaking it, because it may have still taken a year before I retired, but we could have had this powerful conversation
planning
and working together on it,
fortified together.
Instead I'm sure I was stressed out. The job was stressing me. My mom had passed. It was like a lot going on.
That's a lot.
And I was just holding that in. So yeah, it felt much better just to put it out there. And then it's important though, once we have that exchange, that it's not a heated exchange.
Right.
Because what if you weren't as receptive to?
Right. And so then I have a responsibility. Each individual person obviously has a responsibility, but I only speak for myself. Whatever topic comes my way, I have a responsibility of navigating through it and receiving it and processing it, all with the intent of achieving the best possible outcome.
Right. And that's a choice.
And that is a choice.
Yeah.
It is a choice. I can choose to be loose with my emotions, or I can choose to be in control of it.
But it's still a choice.
It's still a choice.
A heated exchange is a choice.
It is.
Just understand that if you are having one of those really heated discussions or arguments, you're choosing that.
But let's be honest. Let's be fair and say that some people choose what they are capable of doing, or what they're familiar with.
I agree.
I realize that what we're talking about is it takes a great level of emotional maturity. It does, to navigate through a conversation, keep your emotions in check,
right,
and speak lovingly.
Yes.
Speak lovingly and speak with the intent to achieve the outcome that's good for both of you.
Right. And it's easy to say that in this moment where we're just having a dialogue.
It's not like simplistic.
Right. But I do know, especially when you feel like you've been wronged and the story you've told yourself, which you just have to understand is still just a story.
It is.
Just like I was so sure that he would be upset with me retiring, because it's like, what about the household, the finances? What about this, right? I was so sure he would be upset, but it's still the story I told myself.
Right.
So when you have told yourself a story that they have wronged you, harmed you, hurt you, you've told yourself all those things, all that anger builds up. And now that you've told yourself that version of the story and you're all heated up and super angry, now you want to go have a conversation. And then we say you have a choice to keep calm.
Yeah. No, you have to be intentional. That's
From the
number
very
one.
beginning.
From the very beginning.
Yeah.
And there has to be, it's important that there is an agreement between the two, because to step into that space with that mindset, to be thoughtful, to be intentional, to be, checking your emotions, that's a trusted space. It has to be a trusted space. And so both people have to have an agreement so that both of them can be comfortable in stepping into that space and feel trust, like it's a trusted space.
Right.
Yeah, that is really important. And if you trust each other and love each other, then you can step into that space of having an emotionally mature conversation and come to a resolution about whatever the topic is.
Right.
Because I think that every scenario that you encounter, there is an opportunity for growth.
Right. And that's important to remember. Even when you're not fighting, right? When you have conversations, it's for growth, it's how to grow. So we've kind of covered, you definitely don't want to avoid a fight.
Nope,
right? You
that's
want
a loss.
to implement a good dialogue to allow you to communicate, right? We also talked about, these heated arguments and things, they're not out of your control. They're actually a choice. You are choosing. And it starts way back when the event occurred and you chose to view it a certain way.
Yes.
And I love our kids. Like our kids, if they're in a situation where they feel like there's about to be a fight or something, they'll call us just to get a different opinion.
Yeah. That's
or
true.
to have different insight.
Yeah.
And even when we are in our minds going, woo, and we want to tell them,
a doozy.
Right. We want to be like, yeah, but no, we have to respond to them the way we would respond to each other. So we tell them to stop, to kind of think about what occurred, whatever story they share with us, put their emotions aside.
Yeah, be analytical.
Yeah.
And see what it could have been, or what, there's
different
more scenarios that exist in the situation.
Every story has multiple stories, right? You think your story is the only story, but everybody has their own story behind,
That's true.
Yeah, what happened. And so we kind of get them to calm down, do something fun or whatever, and then address it when they're ready to address the issue. So yeah, it's all about choosing, right? So our kids say, okay, I'm gonna call my parents before I have this argument. Or even in the midst of, if they're in the midst of, they'll call us.
That has happened. Not too often.
Not often, but they will call us.
Here and there.
It does happen. So sometimes that's like a lifeline. Call a friend.
It is.
Call a friend. A friend that's level-headed. Don't get a friend that's going to rile you up.
Right.
And get you all excited too.
Oh yeah, so that you can vent.
No.
Vent. Yeah.
And that's sometimes what we do. I'll say women more so. If we're upset, we'll call another friend to help us get more upset.
Just sprinkle some gas on the fire. That's all it is. Just skeet, a little bit of fuel on the fire.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes it better.
Yeah. I always like the analogy when you're really, really upset, I like the analogy of if you were in court
Yes.
and you were appealing to the judge, and this
Mhm.
is like a life sentence, right? You gonna control yourself. If you
Oh,
think
yeah.
something you say can win the judge over and they'll see it
Mhm.
differently and give you grace, you're going to talk to the judge a certain way.
Yeah, that's true.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I was thinking in my head, I've seen videos where, someone is being sentenced
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, and playing like they hard. Well, I don't give a fuck, whatever. And then judge slap that harsh sentence, and they go crying off like a little bitch. So understand that how you project yourself matters.
Yeah.
Period. It does matter. And self control is a key component in that equation.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just is. Some people, you can call it, I will say things to you a certain way to get a certain point across or to get a certain result.
Mm-hmm.
The result. And I speak with a tone, I phrase my words a certain way. Some people may call it manipulation. I call it creating the outcome that I desire.
Right. Yeah. So it's you really being mindful of what triggers the other person.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Knowing your audience when you know your partner, you know what ticks them off, or what
You know.
come on.
Like
No.
if you go like this, that's not gonna be received. Like go,
No.
oh,
No,
now
no,
that ain't gonna
no,
work.
no.
Or roll your eyes, go,
Yeah.
oh,
Or go silent and
mm,
do the silent treatment.
that is the worst.
Yeah, that's not cool.
Yeah.
So you've been with the person long enough. You don't have to be with someone that long. If you're intimate with them, then you know them.
Right. So you know certain body language.
Yes.
You know certain tone, certain
Yeah.
voice.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And then also sometimes you know yourself, right?
Mhm.
So I'll give transparency.
Okay.
So last night, I'm in the shower and the drain
Uh-oh.
totally stops up and hair and everything's coming out of the drain and I'm freaking out and I'm having a fit. And I know that if I go marching in the bedroom and start fussing and say, I'm going to go buy some Drano and fix it myself, right? I know I'm not going to get a good reaction out of my husband because over the years, he said, do not use Drano. Mm-hmm. And I've always used Drano when I was single because that's what worked. But he was like, no, it ruins the pipe. Don't use Drano. So in my mind, I'm saying, I'm going to tell him I'm going to use Drano because he didn't fix it. I'm going to use some Drano. And I said, girl, that is not going to get you the right result. No. And so instead, I wrap my towel around me, still kind of wet from the shower, and I go marching in there, talking it with an English accent.
Yes, she did.
Saying,
she put humor in it.
Yes, I added humor, and I was like, I cannot take a proper shower because the shower is just filling up with water, And then I have like my towel barely hanging on me, and I'm like wailing around. But it was like, just make humor of it, but make sure he understands that I need it fixed. And so today, my shower is fixed.
Yes, I did what I needed to do, and it was a lot.
Yeah. And he said, when I did all that, he said, I'll fix it tomorrow, right?
Yeah, when you said all that, it was like, what else can I say? But I just let her know I'll fix it tomorrow.
That was it. That was the end of the discussion. My scene was over. I was no longer the lady from England. And that was the end of that. That could have been a long, drawn out argument, but that was the end of that. Yeah. So you have to know your mate, what's going to get the best reaction from them, right? What's going to smooth it over. Yeah. That's called the art of fine communication.
Yes.
Now, how do you handle the ego part of that?
For me, the ego part is, well, sometimes you got to tell his ass to get somewhere and sit down. I mean, number one, okay, in this particular scenario, I was already aware.
Mm-hmm.
I think the same day earlier that day, I was attempting to take the easy route of uh, pouring boiling hot water down the drain to dissolve the soap and everything else that was in the drain. And it probably did a hint of something, but obviously not. It was not sufficient. So I was already aware. And so when you came to me and said what you said in the lovely accent and tantalizing attire that you had, um, all I could say was, I'll take care of it tomorrow. Because, I mean, I really didn't have any rebuttals.
Right.
I mean, ego could have said, well, I do. No, what's the point of that? Actually, it would be me being dishonest and not taking ownership of what I already knew was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, the appreciation of you coming to me like that for something that I knew was not right.
Right.
Yeah. And so I would be, you might as well stencil dumbass across my forehead if I have more than
if you had a
that to say.
different, right,
Yeah,
right,
it's
right.
just dumb.
But that's the ego part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can have hard conversations. We have a code word. All right.
Okay.
And we say it when we're going to have that conversation. We know that's not, oh, yes, to be brought up again. And we let each other speak.
Oh,
yeah,
I
that
like
is
that.
important.
Yeah.
Not cutting each other off.
Oh man. Yeah, you got to let the other person speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because otherwise, I mean, what's the point?
Yeah. Yeah. Allowing the person to let what's on their mind out sometimes solves arguments
It
just
does.
right then and there because they were just allowed to speak.
Yeah.
And then you honor them by listening, not thinking about how you're going to respond.
Loading your ammo while they talking.
Right.
No, don't do that.
No, but just allowing them to speak and just say, okay, either I'll take care of it or I understand.
Yeah.
Or how can we solve this? Whatever. But you're right, Bunny and Troy, just allowing that space for people to be heard and talk. Yeah. Now, and I like the idea of the code word. Now, we have a code word for other things.
Well, that's true, but that's a different subject with the video.
We have other code words, but a code word to avoid confrontation or our argument, that's a good one. And to not bring it up again is also so important.
What if it is not resolved? Do you bring it up again then if it's not resolved?
If it's a discussion that's not resolved?
Yeah, if what the discussion, the topic of the discussion, if it occurs again in the future.
But then I think it becomes, like they're saying, it becomes a new discussion. Right.
Okay.
We're not bringing it back up again.
All right, I got
And I would say if it's not resolved, sometimes things just aren't resolved.
That is true. That is true. You can't always come to an agreement on everything.
Yeah. And it's a choice.
Yeah.
We have an issue that's not resolved in our household. And it's our bathroom remodel.
Oh, yeah. We won't talk about that. I was like, what is she talking about? Yeah, we don't need to talk about that. We don't need to talk about that. Moving on to the next topic.
And so here's the thing. If it's not resolved, it's just like Bunny says, well, and just like not bring it up again. Right. And so I have to make a decision on how I want to proceed. Do I want to have a happy marriage? Do I want to have fun? Do I want to, enjoy? Or do I want to keep bringing up an issue that's just not resolved? And it's like, it will get resolved eventually. Probably when I stop thinking about it, it'll get resolved when I let it go. But also, I will say, when you have an issue or a matter that's not resolved, you have to put things in perspective.
Yes.
Because when I look at my husband and all that he brings to the table, how he works really hard and um, he remodels all the world, right? And brings home the bacon. He don't go spend it in the bars. He doesn't gamble it away. He brings all the money to the table for the family. Mortgage is paid every month. I don't have to worry. I don't have to think about it. I start prioritizing what's important. And then other things, you got to just let it go. Some things you just let it go. It will eventually get resolved. Unresolved will get resolved. Sometimes just letting it go.
Yes.
Yeah, just letting it go.
Totally agree with
But
that.
I do like that the code word. That's awesome because that's like a trigger that says, okay, let's shift.
Yeah. Yeah. That's important.
Yeah.
It is. It's important. Feeling heard is important. Yeah.
Yeah, that Bunny says sometimes I pick and choose the battles I want to fight. Yeah, it's that priority. Is it really that important? It's not. It's not.
It's not. No.
And even if it is, you still have to say what's more important.
Oh yeah, everything has an order.
Yeah,
everything has a level. Everything is measurable.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
It is. It really is measurable. And how does it affect the big picture is probably the key question to ask. Yeah. Does it make everything stop, or does it, or I don't know. I think that's a big question.
Right. And also we have to know how the other person thinks.
True.
Right. So you understand why people think the way they think. So understanding, why people think, it's really crucial.
Yeah. And you know what? There's a lot of factors to consider when thinking about how another person thinks. It could be viewpoint on life. It could be their past experiences. It could be how their parents interacted or did not interact.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pieces to that equation of how someone thinks.
Yes.
The psychological aspects of a person's mind is so complex.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to really know your partner.
Yeah. I know very early on in our relationship, my husband is a thinker, and I understand that he's a thinker, but I said to him, the silent treatment does not work for me at all. And so very beginning of our marriage, we would have these conversations at nauseum, like on and on and on, far longer than he wanted to entertain. But he but he understood, for me, I needed closure, because the worst thing for me, I mean, this would be like,
I was in it to win it.
Yeah, this
for
would
the team.
It would be divorce material for me if he just shut down and ignored me. Because that's what I grew up in my household. Yeah, my stepfather would ignore the whole house. I'll be like, y'all fighting. Why are you ignoring me? Why me? And that is just the worst feeling. And so you have to understand. And even though you're a thinker and you would prefer to take some time to
think
process
about it and then verbalize my thoughts. Yeah. But sometimes you have to navigate through that thing, and sometimes you got to just do things differently.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to speak while you thinking. And I know the complexity of that. Physiologically, there is a difference between men and women. Fortunately, that's a good thing. But as far as vocabulary and how many words are spoken throughout a given day, comparably between men and women. And so speaking more than what I normally would speak, that may be a step outside of my normal space. But the bottom line question is, what is the result that I want?
Right.
And if I need to speak more and be comfortable with that because I like the outcome, then damn it, I'm just gonna start talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it changes over time.
it does.
Yeah, because like even today now, if there's a topic, sometimes there's a topic I want to share with him, I'll tell him I don't even want to answer.
Right. Know your audience.
I know your audience. I'll tell him and ask
Mhm.
him to think about it and then get back to me
Yes.
because I just know he's a thinker. But this is through maturity.
Oh yeah, emotional maturity, time, becoming acquainted with me, the person. You presenting it to me in that fashion is because you care about the outcome, and the best possible outcome that you can achieve is giving me time to think about it.
Right, right. So it's a give
I'm
and take.
authentic.
That's
I
right.
can be authentic with my answer versus formulate an answer prematurely before my thoughts are collective, which is not a comfortable space.
Yeah. And really, the idea too is to allow people space so they don't feel like they have to become defensive
or pressurized. And people put under pressure, they're eventually they don't come out fighting.
Yep.
Eventually, that's a natural reaction.
When you go in and in and in, and it feels good because you're getting your point across, and you're just going in, and you're like, yeah, I got you. Eventually, they will strike back. So really allow space so people don't have to be defensive, but give each other that ability to express themselves how they feel.
It's love. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's just love. You can smell it.
You can smell it. You can taste it. Ooh, so what are some techniques though? What would you say are some techniques that will allow people to keep from being defensive? Because that's a natural order. It's just natural.
Techniques on not being defensive. Number one, well, as funny as it may seem, breathing. Sometimes when we're tense and we're in that space and it's a little heated, she wants to know
what is our worst argument.
Ooh,
that's hard to think about.
That's hard to think about. I know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I know. I will say the most intense feeling I ever felt, and I honestly cannot remember why I was upset with you, but it was after my mother passed away. So I was completely irrational.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't know, but he was being wise in allowing me space during this time when I was all over the place. But for some reason, I needed you to do something or be something. Because I was beside myself. My mom had passed away. And I remember I was in the shower and I couldn't get out of the shower. Like I wasn't breaking down. I just couldn't get out the shower. I just stayed in the shower. I don't know how long I was in the shower, and I was just stuck, and the water was just pouring down. And we got a big water bill that month. And when I got out, I just told you what happened, that I was stuck in the shower. And I just shared, I was, exhausted. I was tired. I was this, I was that. I had gotten a promotion at work, so I had more responsibility. And I just was just beat down. And I just remember just sharing it with you, and you just listened. Yeah.
I think you were in a space at the time of not looking for solutions. You were just feeling what you were feeling.
And I just wanted to vent.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to complain just because I was all over the place. Y'all. I was not in my right head space. But I remember I wanted to complain because I was exhausted. Like I if you guys ever had to do funeral arrangements, I had to do everything. My mother, I was her only child.
Yeah, a lot to do.
She had no spouse. I had to do everything. And I was, working, and I had a promotion. So I was working extra hard. I had a promotion, and then I had staff that were gone. It was crazy.
I think.
Hi, Tanya.
Hey, Tanya.
Woo!
Hey, hello there. I think in that moment, in that space and time, was me taking a step back and observing from a distance, which allowed me to see the full picture, the big
Mhm.
picture around you and all the elements involved. And understanding that the loss of a mother,
Mhm.
it's nothing else like that.
Yeah.
And the change in life that goes with that,
Yeah.
and then you have these other changes, significant big changes to go, that you had to navigate through at the same time. So I'm observing all of the pieces that are in your space,
Mhm.
and it required me to not be in my own space.
Right.
It required me to very diligently observe you and think about all the pieces, and just, if you blame me, cool, blame
Jesus has
me,
got to be blamed.
blame me. I don't care.
Right.
Blame me,
Right.
because the pressure and the elements that you were experiencing was, I could push back.
Right. But
Oh, hell no. That, you talk about tear a marriage apart.
right. I would have
No.
unraveled.
Oh
Yeah.
God, no.
And during that time, y'all, if the wind blew the wrong way, I would get upset. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're
you're so
welcome.
yeah, you're
But you
welcome.
know, you ask the question, we
Yes,
give an
we
answer.
love answering the questions.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that it's a good question, because we can sit here and talk about how to do this and how to do that,
Right.
and how to
But
do this. But
when
I
you
appreciate the question.
yeah,
Yeah.
when you guys hear how we navigate through things, it's real, right? Because sometimes, you know, it's all nice to give some textbook answer, but you go,
Mhm.
no, tell me, what did you do? You know,
Right.
how did you?
And I'll be honest, I think back to that space. I'll be honest. I lost a mother at that same time.
Mhm.
Mother-in-law is still my mother.
Right.
And I put my own feelings aside and said, I need to table this shit for a little while,
Right.
because your situation was more significant than mine.
At that moment.
And
Yeah.
what you needed from me was, you needed me to be the anchor.
Right. And I did. And I did. Y'all, I was a mess. Yeah. Yes,
There you go.
absolutely, Tanya. It doesn't get any easier.
No, hell no.
Yeah, it was just yesterday, and we mentioned my mom, and we both started getting emotional, and there's a sad song playing. I said, first of all, change that song. I said, because we're about to be in the bread aisle. We about to just,
oh my God, it was about to get ugly.
Yes, it doesn't get any easier. You're so right, Tanya.
No.
But that's about knowing each other, right?
Yeah.
Now that's where we get to self-evaluation.
Yes.
Yeah, self-evaluation is necessary, right? So if, for example, let's use that example. Thank you, Bunny, for bringing it up.
Mhm.
I was in the shower and I realized I was numb, right? And so I was like, it's something wrong. I can't even get out the shower. I'm just stuck. And so when we came out and I had that conversation with you, it allowed me to have, you know, a different perspective, right? Because I was just being transparent, like full open kimono, just like, this is me. I told you, like, I'm like on the verge of losing it.
I know.
And I was always, you know, hold it together person of, you know, just we're gonna keep it all together. And I let you know I'm on the verge of losing it. Like I'm on the edge. I'm on the edge of glory. I was on the edge. And so, talk about, you know, how that self-evaluation and how that can help you have a different perspective on things.
It is, you have to be in touch with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know when your emotions, when your mind is not normal. And it does require you like being analytical, evaluating yourself. If you feel like you are kind of all over the place a little bit, or your emotions, you're flying off the handle a little bit, abnormally, in the moment of you doing that, you should be able to notice it.
Yeah.
You should be able to notice it. If you find yourself doing things outside of your routine of doing things,
Mm-hmm.
and you got stuff happening in your life, it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can bullshit and act like ain't nothing going on, I'm good and all of that. But that's being immature, irresponsible, especially when you have another person that is so connected to you
Mm-hmm.
that whatever is happening in you, it's happening to the other person at the same time.
Amen. Amen to that.
Because the person that they're used to connecting with is not really there.
Right. Yeah, there's something going on and you
Yeah.
don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And it can be something simple. Like for me, if I'm hungry,
Hangry.
if I'm hangry, he knows. Just
Yeah.
get that girl Snickers. Because I'm not making good decisions. I'm fussing. I'm
Yeah.
complaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's an example. All right. Everybody gets hungry from time to time, forget to eat, didn't get a chance to eat, or whatever. Um, I call it being in the red.
Yes.
I know when I'm about to be in the red.
Right.
I know it physiologically. I'm aware. I don't deny it. And if I'm interacting with you, I will let you know, hey, I'm just about in the red, or I am in the red. I need to get some food.
Yeah.
Right? Because without food, it does affect your emotions.
Right.
Or the your ability to regulate your emotions.
Yeah.
Chemically in your body, that thing is real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like what Tanya was just saying. She
Yeah, I know
said
she
you
said
have
something.
to know when it's okay to not be okay
Yes.
and allow the other person to hold you up.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Allow. Yeah. And
Mhm.
that's real. And we do that for each other.
Oh yes, we do.
Yeah.
That's important, because otherwise, shit, you might as well be by yourself.
Yeah.
For real.
Right.
You might as well be by yourself. And I know in our society, and it's evolving, but some of us are in that traditional space where the men are taught and expected to be that hard, solid rock no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But there are moments in time where that's not feasible.
Yeah.
And we got to switch up a little bit. If you see me acting abnormal, saying things that are abnormal,
Right.
you might want to just come and give me a hug and say, hey, you all right?
That's his famous line. He was like, if you ever see me doing that, I need you to be gentle with me.
Because I'm way out there.
I'm way out there, and I need you to gently pull me back. Don't be all hard just gently pull me back.
And I don't mind you pulling me into your bosom and telling me it's going to be all right.
So crazy. You're like, gently pull
even
me
if
back.
Everything is all right, you can still do that. I'm
pull
okay.
Me in your bosom.
Yeah, no, but we as men, sometimes we deny ourselves that 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 space that says that the other person, allowing the other person to care about us that much,
Mm-hmm.
to where we can let our guard down, to where we don't have to be in front all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
that rolls us into the conversation about sometimes we have to change the narrative, right?
Yes.
Because whatever the narrative is that's going in our head is causing us to go down a certain path.
Ooh-wee. Yeah.
And if you want to stay on that path because you just want to still feel bad, okay.
Right.
But if you're ready to shift and feel better, you got to change the narrative.
Yeah, sometimes you've made that statement to me. So is that where you want to be at?
Right.
No, damn it. Why you gotta say it like that? All right, give me a minute. Shit. Let me shift myself.
Yes. Yeah.
No, it's real, but it's real, but it takes practice. Yeah, it takes practice. What did she say? Don't stew in juices too long.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because that stuff it turned into other things.
And it starts stinking.
Yeah, it starts stinging. People start leaving the room.
Yeah.
Leave you by yourself in the dark then. All right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness. Yeah.
And that's, you know what? That's a real thing.
It is.
We both have matured over the years where
Yes.
we have decided that just feeling bad
Mhm.
just to feel bad, it just doesn't feel good.
No.
It just doesn't feel good. Like, this is, I kid you not, and I don't know if it's through time or
Mhm.
what, but being mad at you just feels horrible.
Yeah, that's not fun.
It feels
That's
horrible to
no.
make myself. In fact, I would have now,
Mhm.
not back then, y'all, but now, today, I would have to make myself feel bad. Like, I would have to force myself to be angry at
Mhm.
you.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good.
No.
It doesn't. Plus, I also know that it's not going to solve anything.
No, it's not going to solve anything. In fact, it will likely enhance what is wrong.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
because it adds another layer on top of the complexity of what already is wrong. And I'll be honest and say, I love you too much to project that side of me to you.
Yeah, it's emotional.
Yeah, it matters how I present myself to you. That
Right.
does matter. Now, I'm not making decisions about the inner being of myself to appease you. No, but what I present to you matters to me. It does. And if I'm not having a good day, and I may not have the wherewithal in the moment to articulate that, I'm glad that you know me well enough to know that it's an abnormal moment for me.
Right.
And to either address it with me, open the topic with me, or let me have a moment or two or whatever.
Yeah.
Or ask me, hey, you all right? That kind of thing. And if you ask me, hey, are you all right? I likely am already aware that I'm not all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our emotions are really the foundation of conflict resolution.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Your emotions, how you feel, how you are engaged with someone, that is the foundation. If you can keep your emotions where they need to be.
My goodness, yeah.
And like you said, when you're off, if I acknowledge that you're off instead of getting emotional about it or upset about it, but just, controlling emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of times, if you really think about it, arguments come about because of negative feelings, right? Yeah. Enjoy this live. Oh, absolutely, buddy. So arguments come about through negative feelings. You're just not happy. You're dissatisfied, whatever. And so how do you get to the deeper issue?
Well, it requires you to be honest. That's the first beginning piece to that. And are you happy with yourself?
Oh,
yeah. Are you happy with yourself? Because what's going on the outside of you is just a reflection of what's happening on the inside.
So when you have the negative feeling and you're feeling bad, instead of going, it's because he did this or he did that,
to the no.
It's why am I feeling this way? What
Right.
is going on inside of me?
Me that is causing this moment in time.
Right.
Yes, causing me to feel this way. What am I not? Sometimes when we deny ourselves, whether it's, our true feelings, our true desires, or we conform to something because we think the other person expects that of us. And so the moment we choose to be what is important to someone else, that is a moment in denying ourselves.
Right.
Because unless we're choosing it for ourselves, because that's what I want to be, that's one thing. But the moment I make a decision, I'm going to be like this because that's what she desires. If that is not exactly what I desire, then I'm denying myself. And the moment I deny myself is when I create conflict within myself.
Right.
Conflict within myself creates these wacky emotions that are not nice.
Right. And
And
so when those emotions are coming up, then that's when, yes, keeping your emotions. My husband will call me on it immediately. We don't let things do. I call him on his junk too.
yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, you have to. You know what? Checking the other person nicely.
Nicely.
Yes. Gently.
Gently.
Sometimes with a hug.
Right.
And sometimes the hug leads to the resolution of the problem because you can take the hug in a different direction
yes.
and do other things beyond the hug, and you forget that what the hell you were
arguing about.
Anyways, I decided to stop with that because I was about to go somewhere else. Anyway,
healthy conflict resolution. Yeah, but I like what you were saying about doing that inward work, looking within yourself. If those feelings are going all over the place, then you got to look within yourself. What's really going on with you?
Taking responsibility. It's really quite simplistic.
Yeah.
There's no big, thing that you need to figure out with that. Anything that's going on the outside of you is a reflection of what's happening on the inside of you.
Yes.
It just is.
It is. And
It just
you may
is.
think it's somebody else, but it is certainly something you have to look within yourself. Why are you angry? Why are you feeling this way? What are you doing that's disservice to yourself, that's causing you to feel this?
To be that way.
Even when you think it was the other person, they came home late, or they didn't come home right away, or they called and said they were coming home, but they didn't.
Right.
And you swear it's all about the other person.
But it's
not. It's like, what is it within you that makes you feel the way you feel?
Because I could work late and get home, and you could say to me, damn, you's out there making that money.
Right.
Or
there's a different way of looking at it.
Or damn, you stay late all the time.
Right.
It's just,
what story is it that you're telling yourself? Or for me, if I don't hear from you after a certain period of time, I will call, number one, because I know you're having fun at work.
Yes.
But I will call just to make sure you're okay.
Right.
And that's true. That's a different.
That's a different look on that. Checking on me versus wondering why
didn't you call? Right. Why didn't you call? Can you pick up the phone and call me just to let me know? But instead going, hey, how are you? How's it going?
And I know there has been times in the past when you were at work and you're like meetings back to back to back to back, and I ain't heard from you all day. There were times when I wouldn't call you, I would just send you a text because you might be on a call, then you got to answer your phone to me, but just checking in.
Right. Not immediately creating this negative story about what's going on.
No, it's not necessary. It's really a state of mind to keep yourself in that keeps things balanced.
Right.
That's it.
Yep. Well, we have a lot more to talk about on this topic, but I think we are coming to a close tonight.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but we come back because in 2 weeks, we're going to resume this heated topic
Yes. What's okay? What are we going to be talking about in 2 weeks? Mastering, being the master of your emotions.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and
And what about when two come together, but one is growing and the
yeah,
other's maybe not
there's that
growing
part.
unequally?
Yeah. How do you navigate that when one
Yes.
person is growing faster than the other, so
Yes.
that you don't grow apart?
Yes. Yes.
And that happens a lot.
A lot.
Yes.
A lot.
A lot.
So
Yeah.
definitely want to come back 2 weeks and check that out. What a time you say, oh, this has been great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tanya.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for being
Yes,
here.
thank you,
being a part of it.
Bunny.
Yeah.
Thank you, Troy, for being there, and everybody else who was on the live.
Yes.
Even though you didn't make a comment,
That's
woo,
okay.
woo, give a shout out
That's
to you.
okay.
We appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
Yes.
This has been very, very nice.
Yeah.
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 If any of this resonates with you, if you have questions about it, go ahead and drop a comment in there, and one of us two will be happy to respond in detail. And or if it's a topic or a question that you want us to address on the next live, we'll be certainly happy to do that. So.
Yeah, and be sure to check out our freebie. We have a free guide. There's a link in the description. So come back and check on the live and look in the description. We're going to post our freebie out there, and it's a great guide on how to have navigating conversations with your mate, how to honor each other. This particular freebie is also talking about when one mate makes more than the other, and how to navigate conversations in that manner. All about communication. So please check out our freebie.
Yeah.
Take some time to answer the Q&A with your spouse and just hear each other out and have fun with it.
Yeah, grow and be live.
Yeah, it's all the way live in 2025. Ooh, 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 ooh.
All right. We love you guys.
We love you guys. Have a beautiful night.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.